Right? I want to show you all something that I'm reading in You Got It. I'm considering Robert T. Kiyosaki my rich dad. Donald Trump my rich dad. Why? Because guess what? And by the way, there's a difference between. I'm pretty sure someone's gonna say this crap. Bankruptcy, blah blah blah. Personal and business bankruptcy are different. Let me point this out to you. Okay. Now the let me see. Already read. That's okay. SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, which that was founded. It was created in 1930s under the direction of Joseph Kennedy, father of the late President John Kennedy. Basically, you'll see it basically protects the poor from themselves, basically. It protects them from the good investments and bad investments, right? Now, you'll see that there are rich people investments and poor people, middle class people investments. An investment you can do right now is silver. Oh, by the way, it's over $80. I'm letting you know. It's like 83. I'm hoping it goes down to 50 so I can buy more. To be honest. That is a poor middle class investment. I recommend physical silver, physical gold, because one, if I can't see it, right, I think, no, right, I am ready to invest in other stuff, but you'll see that if you see a thing, it's like, on a thing, usually, this investment is for accredited investors only, and accredited investor is generally accepted to be someone who has a net worth of $1 million or more, or has had an annual income of 200,000 or more in each of the most recent years, or 300,000 jointly with a spouse, and who has a reasonable expectation of reaching the same income level in the current year. Yeah. Okay. So, not only am I reading right now Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I'm also reading Guide to Investing. I am. After this, I'll read Cash Flow Quadrant, and then the other book to have. Now, you gotta learn. Let me read this, because I just want to read this for y'all. Okay? Why it was created. Rich Dad laughed. It was created to protect the public from unscrupulous deal-makers, businessmen, brokers, investors. Why do you laugh, I asked. It seems like it would be a great thing to do. Yes, it is a very good thing, Rich Dad replied. By the way, at this point, Mike has $1 million home. Well, Robert Kiyosaki just got, is on a base in Hawaii. He got invited for dinner from Mike and Rich Dad, right? Mike, at this point, has a son. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, same thing, which I played. Still chugging a little. Prior to the stock market crash of 1929, many shady, slippery, and shoddy investments were being sold to the public. A lot of lying and misinformation was being set forth. So the SEC was formed to be the watchdog. It is the agency that helps make as well as enforce the rules. It serves a very important role. Without the SEC, there will be chaos. So why did you laugh? I persisted. Because while it protects the public from bad investments, it also keeps the public out of the best investments, replied Rich Dad in a more serious tone. So if the SEC protects the public from the worst investments and from the best investments, what does the public invest in? I asked. The sanitized investments, Rich Dad replied. The investments that follow the guidelines of the SEC. Well, what's wrong with that? I asked. Nothing, said Rich Dad. I think it's a good idea. We must have rules to enforce the rules. The SEC does that. Why did you chuckle? I asked. I've known you too many years, and I know you're holding back something that is causing you to laugh. I already told you, said Rashad. I chuckle because in protecting the public from the bad investments, the SEC also protects the public from the best investments, which is one of the reasons the rich get richer. Wait, which is one of the reasons the rich get richer? I asked. Tenuously? I think. It's tenuously. You got it, Rich Dad said. I told because I see the irony in the big picture. People invest because they want to get rich. But because they're not rich, they're not allowed to invest in investments that make them rich. Only if you're rich, you can invest in a rich person's investments. And so the rich get richer. To me, that is irony. But why is it done this way, I asked. Is it to protect the poor middle class from the rich? No, not necessarily, Mike responded. I think it's really to protect the poor and middle class from themselves. Why do you say that? I asked. Because there are many more bad deals than good deals. If a person is not aware, all deals, good and bad, look the same. It takes a great deal of education and experience to sort the most sophisticated investments into good and bad investments. To be sophisticated means you have the ability to know what makes one investment good and the other dangerous. And many people simply do not have that education and experience, said Rich Dad. Mike, why don't you bring out the latest deal we are considering? And he started flipping, okay, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Here's what we're thinking of investing in. Says Mike is a millionaire. Mike and his dad are millionaires. Now, with that point out, there was one more paragraph at the front of the book that read, Exemptions from the Securities Act of 1933. This is what I want you to understand, he said. I lean forward to be better able to read the fine print his finger was pointing on. This fine print said, this investment is for accredited investors only. An accredited investor generally accepted to be someone, and I told you, have $1 million or more in income, net worth of $1 million or more. My net worth is right now like $1,800 for my silver, just from silver. Silver is, I think, a good first investment because it's a low risk one. Because either way, physical silver at least, you have it and you have the coin and you have the little ball in your hand. So you can go anywhere in the world, exchange it for goods. Exchange it for their currency to buy goods. Has had an annual income of $200,000 or more in each of their most recent years, or $300,000 jointly with a spouse, and who has a reasonable expectation of reaching the same income level in the current year. Leaning back in my chair, I said, this is why you say I cannot invest in what you invest in. This investment is for rich people only, or people with high incomes, said Mike. Not only are these guidelines tough, but the minimum amount you can invest in this investment is $3,500, or $35,000. Sorry, this is how much each investment unit is, as it is called, costs. Right? I want y'all to realize this. Like, this is something when I learn something in these books, I'm gonna tell y'all about it because I want y'all to go, okay, right? How can I stop thinking common man and think, rich man, right? That's why I have that question that I ask myself every day. Every day. Honestly, I just learned something in this book. These books are really good. A nurse, when I was visiting my aunt in the hospital, like last time, said to me, those are good books, because I had this one in my hand. Oh, I know these are good books. Let me see what I'm reading on here. I'm reading on the history of tax and power of corporations. Now, income tax wasn't was only used really for during wartime. By the way, it became permanent. Let me see when it says it became permanent. Now, okay. Taxes were levied in Britain for the fight against Napoleon from 1799 to 1816, and in America to pay for the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. And in 1874, England made income tax a permanent levy on its citizens. In 1913 is when it became permanent for the United States. Why do you think Ron Paul says, abolish the Fed? This is what income tax should actually be for. To pay for war. That's it. I've learned a lot. I have. And I want y'all to learn too. At least invest in physical silver if you can. Under 100, it rarely goes down under 100 and something that I've seen. My investments, I think I'm getting the Silver Coin of the Month thing again, which is good for me because that's going to be my selling silver. I'm going to fill my first one up and then have a second thing for selling. When I get enough, I'm selling and buying a thing of gold or two. I'm buying a couple things of gold coins. Gold, right? Silver is first, then gold. It's they're both low risk investments anyway. I know you want to make money, you got to do high risk, whatever. That's the thing. Silver is a good, just common man thing that you should do. And I think everyone should have at least a few things of silver. Because it never goes under, from what I've seen, under, $60. Currently. There's a reason China is stacking silver. There's a reason. Learn from that. Anyway, God bless and peace. God's force against us and helping you invest for the future. God bless.